Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next edition of Book Readers Talks. We have here again my husband, Mr. Jitendra Marathe, after a long time. Hi, Jitendra.
Hi, good morning to all.
Welcome to the show, Jitendra.
Thank you for inviting me again.
Welcome. So, which book have you chosen today to talk about?
It's a very interesting book with a very interesting title called
Is it?
Who Says Elephants Can't Dance?
Oh, is it? Okay. Can you summarize the main premise of Who Says Elephants Can't Dance?
I think what is ordinarily seen as a very difficult task, it can be achieved by focus, by proper planning, by proper thought process. I think that is the central theme of this book. And the title is also very apt because ordinarily, because elephants are very large animals, we wouldn't associate them with dancing, where generally you would imagine, somebody like a deer. So I think that the book is very aptly named. It has a very interesting title.
So what do you think is the central message the author is trying to convey through this book?
I think what the author is trying to convey is that in business, particularly because the book is focusing on transformation of IBM. So the business is, I think the author is trying to say that there are sometimes difficult challenges that every large corporate or even a small corporate may face. But if you analyze the problems with sincerity and without any pre-drawn conclusions, then more often than not, you are likely to come across possible solutions.
Okay. Yes.
That I think, and of course, one is the planning and understanding the problem. Secondly, you need also a lot of skill in implementing the changes properly. So it is a mixture of both things, planning and implementation.
Okay, great. Can you tell us more about this author?
Yes, this book is written by the ex-CEO of IBM, Lou Gerstner.
Okay.
That is, I believe, the American pronunciation, because otherwise it's a French-sounding name.
Right.
I believe this is right pronunciation.
Yes.
He comes from engineering and MBA background, which is, a well-coveted kind of a background in many US corporate leaders. And before joining IBM, he had established himself in the corporate world of the US as a leader with a very strong sales and marketing or business development background.
Okay.
And before joining IBM, he worked for many years with companies that were primarily into what we call in India as a FMCG sector, fast-moving consumer goods, or retail sector. That is another characterization of the industry he worked in.
Okay.
So this was a bit unusual for him to join a computer manufacturing company.
Do you believe that his background and experiences influence the perspectives he has shared in the book?
I think it has played a very key role because though the challenges facing IBM were slightly different, but they had many elements, which he was very well familiar with because he came from the business development, sales, customer-facing roles. So understanding the customer needs, understanding the customer reaction, or understanding the competitiveness of product vis-a-vis what the competitors are, introduced in the marketplace. So he definitely had a very deep background in these aspects, and that definitely helped him to understand the challenges faced by IBM.
Okay, nice. Gerstner has talked about a lot of challenges and transformations he has discussed in this book. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. I think here will be not a very short answer because now we are coming to the central theme of the book.
Right.
So when Gerstner was appointed as the CEO of the company, he initially, as any other leader would do, try to understand, what are the central issues facing the company. And what he realized was that this computer manufacturing company especially the large server manufacturing business. IBM was doing that as the core business at that time. And the name IBM was synonymous with large servers. And that industry itself was undergoing transformation in the sense that there were competitors who had started introducing mid-sized and smaller servers, which had price competitive advantage and easy to manage operating systems.
Okay.
So many of the customers of IBM, or the potential new customers, instead of giving orders to IBM, they started going to these other manufacturing companies. And IBM started losing the market share in a very rapid manner.
Okay.
And it became such a catastrophe that at one point, whether IBM will even survive became the question before the shareholders and the board of the company.
Right.
So he understood this core challenge. And then the book is about what all he did, to steer IBM out of the trouble. And, his journey, this entire journey, or let's say the IBM company journey into the path of transformation that he led the company onto.
Okay. So the book discusses about the key challenges facing IBM when Gerstner took over as a CEO, right?
That's right. So I think now let us go over, which are the key challenges and what all he did.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah. So first thing was that he wanted to know whether anybody from the company who has been around for a long time and who has seen certain business cycles and especially familiar with the say behavior of the competitor, whether any of this senior management team had any ideas, any specific points they would like to discuss with the new CEO, which will help the company. So for this purpose, he initially went about organizing senior management leadership discussion sessions. And the very interesting problem he faced, he had a secretary or an executive assistant. And of course, because it was a very large company, even the office of the CEO was not limited to, let's say, one assistant or one executive assistant. But his chief deputy, let us say that he had a CEO's office, and the chief deputy reporting to him from that office came up with a very interesting question: where to cut the line to decide senior management? And that question puzzled him, because then he said, let me go through the organization chart. And then he also inquired that typically in any company, there are, few times in a year at least, the senior management, brainstorming sessions with the leader.
Okay, yes.
So how many people are normally invited to such sessions? That was the question he asked.
Okay.
And he was shocked. He came to know that, the list would not be less than maybe 60 or 80 people.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, so it was not a size where, one could fit into a boardroom or a conference room in a corporate office and have a very freewheeling kind of a discussion. They had to, basically arrange a special, maybe some kind of a convention center or a hotel, where they could sit so many people at a time. So he realized that the challenge starts from the organization structure itself and how giant this organization is. And when that meeting was organized, I think all these people came with a minimum of one assistant to take notes.
Oh, yes.
So it became a very massive meeting. And the first thing he decided was that in addition to changing the business product or the customer facing practices, he had to simplify the organization structure itself.
Okay.
And then that is what he did. What he realized how big the challenge is. And I think one important point I must mention here is that he then prepared a first impression kind of a report for the board.
Okay.
And he drew a very tentative kind of a timeline for all that he wanted to do.
Okay.
And he was very forthright And he went to the board when he realized that the task is huge. And sometimes leaders come with the idea, or they are given some kind of a target timeline by the board, that we are looking at a 6-month strategy, or sometimes it could be even 3 months, sometimes it is longer. So he realized that this may take even longer than that, looking at the size of the company. So he made his time schedule, and starting from understanding the company's organization structure and who does what. So he made a time plan and he went to the board and he said, please don't expect any miracles from me. And please don't expect that every quarter I will be able to report some progress. Because for me to get an understanding and to come to a point where I feel that I have made an honest effort at identifying the turnaround strategy or a transformation plan, it may take even 1 year before I come back to you.
Right.
So all that I can do till then is report on the the level of understanding and where I have reached. But it may not be with a complete plan of change or anything like that.
Right.
And to the credit of board, they gave him that kind of time. So the specific things he did, I mean, without making a very long-winded story now, the specific things he did was first, and of course, it is not like he did thing A first and B first. Sometimes you have to do certain things in parallel,
Right.
That is how some actions are intertwined. So that is how a leader has to do. So I'm not necessarily saying in a sequence what he did, because some of these things happened at the same time, some happened in a sequence. So 4 or 5 specific things he did was he himself went and met the major distributors of IBM products. And he tried to, and also the customers of IBM, not only the distributors. So he spent a lot of time in understanding whether they had any serious complaints, what challenges they faced, and why some of them were preferring to go with the competitor products. So he got a very detailed insight into the challenges faced in the marketplace itself. And his vision was not clouded by what the team is saying. Because as a leader, you have to take with a pinch of salt. Teams often come with their perspective, which need not be the complete corporate perspective. It is sometimes of a limited sense of their particular domain or their particular function. So it is important for the CEO to also have his own view. This is not to say that he has to disrespect or distrust what his juniors are saying, but it is more a question of perspective and first-hand information. So he did that by visiting the distributors and customers. That is the first thing. Secondly, he realized that why IBM's products were so costly, because it followed a particular pricing methodology. Where various elements of cost are added into the final product before adding the profit. And when he deep dived into these elements of cost, he realized that he was not getting a very satisfactory and transparent answer that he was looking for. Interestingly, he realized that he needed a new CFO also in this journey. Because that information has to be very, very reliable. It has to be calculated in a very precise manner. At least a certain type of information can be calculated in a very precise manner. Certain type of information is assumption based and some methodology based. But he wanted transparency. When the information is presented to him, the CFO has to be very forthright and explain, which is 100% accurate, where there are assumptions, something like that, where there are estimates in the calculation. So these kind of perspective and view must be given by the CFO. So he appointed a lady CFO known to him from some of the previous organizations, who he believed to be very reliable when it came to his requirement. So then he understood that he had to simplify the costing structure of the company. And he had to also reduce the overhead that he did by reducing the the management structure of the company. It was a very top-heavy company with so many vice presidents, senior vice presidents, division heads, geography head, things like that. So he simplified that structure. And that also helped him to reduce the overheads. And that also helped in reducing the price that he will charge.
Right. Okay.
Then another important point is the product itself.
Okay.
He decided that instead of focusing entirely on the large servers, because it was in the DNA of IBM staffers, that IBM is synonymous with large servers.
Correct.
So they themselves could never think that IBM can be making smaller machines. That idea itself was foreign to them. So he told them that no, it is possible. We should make slightly smaller, lean machines. And he set up a team to come up with the mid-server kind of a segment approach. And he realized that even the large organizations like banks, airlines, who traditionally relied on large servers, they would be able to sustain operations with maybe number of smaller servers, if not one server. So he decided that he should explore that segment and maybe even change the focus of the company from necessarily large servers to mid-size and smaller servers.
Okay.
So that is the product level change he introduced. And of course, IBM had a lot of technically capable people. So making a smaller machine itself was not so difficult for them. Then the next thing was to give very important message and confidence to customer. So even before the product was ready, once he realized that he will be able to transform on this new path, he again engaged himself as well as with his senior management team, with all the existing and potential customers.
Okay.
And gave them a very transparent disclosure as to where he's heading.
Okay.
And I'm sure, I'm not very sure whether I came across that in the book, but typically what happens is that when you are changing the product like that, one typical question any customer will have is whether his older machine will be supported or not in future.
Right.
So I'm sure he took care of that anxiety and that problem. Because people invest in servers with an 8-year or 10-year kind of a time span for recovery of money. So if somebody had purchased only 2 years back, he would want to use that machine for another 6 or 8 years.
Correct.
So he would need a software and hardware support, while the machine is still new. And he wanted to use the customer.
Correct.
So I'm sure he took care of that. So in short, this is the transformation that he did. Change the approach from over dependence on large servers to mid-sized machines. Then he simplified the costing structure of the company. And instead of having multiple layers of overheads, multiple layers of assumptions in the costing, he simplified. So it was very easy for his successors to clearly understand what is the cost. And because cost is not a very simple question to answer. That is a separate discussion topic by itself when we discuss cost.
Right.
But when the company makes a pricing, it has to recover various types of costs. So how to calculate this cost and how to finally add the profit to that it's a very complicated question finally. So he simplified that, for the IBM generations. And he also created a differently thinking leadership team in the company. Because till then, everybody went with the flow that, IBM means a large server company. So the thinking was entirely focused in that direction. So he was able to, encourage the culture of coming with new ideas, different ideas, and have a very frank, freewheeling brainstorming within the company. So he encouraged that kind of participative management culture also in IBM.
Right.
So I think this is the crux of the transformation story.
Okay, so I think his leadership transformed IBM in the long term, and it had lasting impacts. All his strategies.
Definitely, I would like to add one very important example here because he stepped down, I think, in year 2002 or 3.
Okay.
And I remember, some years back, IBM also had entered into a different kind of service segment.
Okay.
Which was data storage, data security, cloud storage. So I'm sure, that when he enthused IBM's management team at that time, to think with, differently, to come with new ideas. So that was one different kind of a business segment IBM entered in a very big way. And I think at least for a few years, IBM was a leader in that kind of, IT industry segment.
Okay.
I must confess that I'm not sure at the moment whether they still are the leaders or not,
Okay.
and whether they are continued or not. But this is an example of how he encouraged these ideas, new ideas.
Right.
And people who came after him, they introduced these new ideas in IBM.
Okay. Right. That's nice. So we all know that a person needs support from all ends to be successful in whatever he is doing. Right. So can you tell us about the kind of support Gerstner got in his personal and corporate life?
Yes, yes. I think it is very important to talk about the support from his family.
Okay.
I think more than the support at organization, I think, of course, in organization, what happens is when you are a leader, finally, you finally will get around a team that is understanding what you are trying to achieve and who will wholeheartedly contribute. Right. There would be always some, who may think that, oh no, he's going very fast or he's radically changing the company. So they may try to resist. But when the board empowers the leader, with the complete transformation related, all the infrastructure and all the decision making ability, they vest him with that kind of power. He finally gets around the obstacles within the company. If some people are not listening to him, he will replace them or he will bring new people, etc. So I think it is very important to talk about the support from the family, which has played a very, very important role in this transformation. And that is not during the actual transformation, but the support came by way of giving him confidence to take this role. Because what happened was when he was approached for the first time, and when he went through, I think, 2 or more rounds of discussion with the board of IBM, even he was thinking to himself, whether he's the right person to lead the company in such a difficult phase. Because he felt naturally anybody would feel that he did not come from the computer industry background. He did not come, at least in the recent years, with the challenges of manufacturing companies. Right. His background was in the retail, his background was more in the sales and, customer facing roles. And IBM is kind of, IBM and couple of other companies are pride of the United States. And United States had business leadership in the world at that point in time. Yeah. So if he is not able to transform and let us say, the company does not recover fully, then the jobs of many thousands of people were at stake. The name of the US as a business leader also would be at stake if IBM loses its competitive edge. Correct. So many difficult challenges were there. And he was debating with himself whether he has the capability, whether he is the right leader to lead the company at this particular juncture. And at that time, I think he discussed with his family members, and they encouraged him. And, whatever specific things they told him, he finally realized that, there will be no shortage of people at IBM who knew about computer making. So he was not appointed as a computer making engineer, or he was not appointed as an R&D expert, to do some new R&D. So he realized that finally for such a large corporation, with a, talent of hundreds of senior management people, it would come down to wisdom and, general management decision making. Right. So that is how I think, his family members encouraged him, and they gave him enough confidence that you have this wisdom, you have, that calmness of mind to analyze, before taking the steps. So I think that is how, they played a very important role in giving him that confidence. And he stepped into that role, without that hesitation. That is, I think, very important. Right. Otherwise, at the leadership level, if you are in two minds, then, the company would not, easily set sail in a particular direction.
Has reading this book, Who Says Elephants Can't Dance, changed or influenced your perspective on leadership or corporate culture or business strategy in general?
I think so. I think, I mean, I would not be able to quote some specific examples of how this particular book or, the leadership of Gerstner, but I can at least detect a pattern change, since this IBM survival. Because more and more companies, what I have seen now in the last 20 years, especially, since this transformation also happened, we are nowadays seeing many examples where companies would encourage even the younger management. That is one big change that we see.
Right.
Then the management culture had changed more from the central leadership. Of course, the leadership at a final decision point, somebody has to take a decision. But the how you arrive at the decision, if it is a balanced participative process, where it's not like an ordinary democracy where for endless hours you keep discussing within the company, then the company would lose direction, and everybody would feel that, oh, his views are not heard and this is not the right way. So it's a very important balance, to take the people's view. At the same time, somebody has to be firmly in command, and there is a basic hierarchy in the organization that must be maintained. Otherwise, progress will not happen. So I think there are many such examples nowadays where this kind of a balanced participative management, with younger leaders. And we also see many examples where, seemingly unrelated business or an extension of business. Because what happens in the management world, sometimes this hypothesis and theories keep coming and disappearing.
Right.
So there was a period when everybody said you have to be totally focused. So you can't do more than one line of business. But then it went out of fashion. Then there was a time when people said, as a large organization, you can grab, market space in many, many different industries. So expansion and diversification was like a mantra for few years or few decades.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I am seeing, this situation where some companies are highly focused, some companies are diversified, and some companies are into, say, 2 or 3 product segments. So depending upon circumstances of each company and the shareholder group and the board, there can be a different strategy. There is a room for different types of strategies. So now I think in the corporate world, this is very evident. It is quite possible that in some subtle way, what happened in the IBM transformation has also contributed into this change, the corporate world. There may not be a direct link, but I'm sure there is a subtle link, because it was a fantastic case study. Yes. And I'm sure that it became a case study in many, management programs after the transformation succeeded. So it gave a new way of thinking, to the younger generation, who over a period of time has become, let's say, at the leadership level today, who were MBAs, doing this case study 20 years ago. Many of them would be the CEOs of the company in some industries.
Right.
So that is where I feel there is an impact, generally speaking. And for me also, I would say that, anyway, I was drawn to a connection between the general wisdom and specific actions. And I think this book made it very clear, because both are important. You can't do everything with generalized wisdom. But generalized wisdom should be in such a way that you understand the specific problems and specific actions. And then you implement those specific actions and specific decisions without remaining only at the general management level, because then the transformation would not be very successful.
Correct.
So there is a distinction between general advice and thinking and implementing. I think that is a good message I took from this book.
Okay. This was a great discussion, Jitendra. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. It is one of my favorite books, and I'm sure that it is full of wisdom. And it's an interesting read, because it is written in a very practical kind of a manner. And the author is neither bragging nor trying to give some new theories to the world. But he has sincerely charted his own understanding and journey of transformation.
Okay.
So I think we must give him credit as an author also, not only as a leader and not only as a transformer, but as a wonderful writer also.
Yes, I think in the foreword, he has mentioned that he is not an author, but we give him credit as an author because he has written it so beautifully.
Exactly.
This was great, and hope to see you soon in another episode with another book.
Look forward. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Bye-bye.